And now the Fantastics will sign the contract. This match will be official in just a few moments. That's it, gentlemen, the contracts.
Now, just a second, point of order. I just want to make this clear. Grizzly Smith, this is irrevocable, this is irreversible, this is unamendable. There's no way to change those clauses, no way to reverse the order, no way to amend this clause in any way, no way to change this contract. It's signed, right?
It's signed.
Okay, that's all I want to know. We'll see you in the ring.
You just be in the ring, Cornette. You just be in the ring.
Mayhem. It's mayhem. I'm speechless.
I can't believe it.
I tell you, they have just destroyed the Fantastics. Bobby Eaton, he decapitated them with that steel chair.
Cornette.
It's like a Trojan horse. Grizzly Smith and Jim Ross, the referees in there, these guys, their faces are a crimson mask. I have never seen anything like it. I'm sure Grizzly Smith is in shock. They dented those steel chairs. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back. Let's get away. Let's give a commercial break. Let's hope we can restore some order and get these men attended to medically. You can see that the crimson has flowed. They're bleeding all. It's a mess here. Let's go to our sponsors. Let's take a station break.
Pro Wrestling Reflection presents Pro Wrestling's Greatest Rivalries with your host, the Professor Chalbello Veracruz, Tommy Wonder, and JB. We revisit the greatest grudge matches of all time.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the City of the Angels, please welcome Tommy Rogers and Bobby Fulton, the Fantastics!
What is going on there, Reflectionites? What is going on there to the Beetleites, the dispensary Haminites, and the probationary solitary confinement PWCites? What is going on to the Demites, the Republics, you crazy motherfuckers out there? What's going on to the Israelites? What's going on to the Hamasites, Ukrainites, Russianites, all the ites all over the world? What's going on to the Edronites? What's going on to the AEW Sickoites? You know what? A couple of days ago, we had SummerSlam, and then after the fact, IWC, you got to be perfect, Reflectionites. That's the rule. You just have to be a perfect person, a perfect moral clarity, perfect record. I have no idea, but if you're not perfect, if there's a smidgen of something that's messed up with you, you are buried. You're not John Cena buried. You're not Roman Reigns buried. You're not buried like any wrestler. You're just buried because they don't want to see you even come up from the ashes. Last week TW was talking about forgiveness when you go to Christ. Forgiveness is a word that's very ancient. very foreign to a lot of people out there. But you know what? Neither here nor there. It's just a funny thing when you observe the world of Twitterverse, when you observe the world of social media, when you observe the world, you just on the streets of Detroit, Rock City, or in Bombay, New Jersey. If you just observe, you just see a lot of crazy motherfuckers out there who are just needing to be hugged. They just need attention. They just want to be part of something. But you know what? Like the professor always says, individuality, to be your own person, that makes you stronger than ever. You don't fall to the knees of tribalism. You stand up for your own convictions. But again, that's neither here nor there with my diatribe. But welcome to the PWR podcast here at the How Me Media Group at podbean.com. And welcome to a very special Rivalries edition here at How Me Media Group at podbean.com. And I must introduce myself because I am vain like that. I must introduce myself because, again, I'm getting old, the body's crinkling and all that stuff, you know. My stool is getting harder and all, and softer and all that stuff. Yeah, don't look at me. You get older, your stool gets softer. It's just a fact of life. But anyway, neither here nor there. I must introduce myself so I can get younger. I am the studious one. I am the effervescent one. I am the affluent one. But most importantly, I am the glorious one. The only objective man in this IWC, YWC, PWC punditry, the only objective man in this Twitterverse, the only objective man in this social media conundrum. Your friend of mine, the Professor Chabebe Cruz. I'm not here alone, no. I am here with the conservative liberal conservative, dumb dude, idiot, song, the iron stomach one, Dr. Freaking Stein, and the... Is there a fly in your house or something? No. You're just pondering? All right. He is the undisputed, undeniable Detroit Rock City Universal Heavyweight Champion of the world. Tommy Wonder, and he has an epiphany. He is just looking up at the stars. I don't know what it is, but he has thought of something. He's got a moment of clarity. What is going on, my friend?
I'm looking at my wall of WWE legends. You guys can't see them, but I'm basically trading all these guys. Oh, let me use one that's real. I use, all right. So I had this Rick Rude, but I pulled it down and put up the Legends Rick Rude, right?
Okay.
And I'm just admiring the wall. And as I go, like if they make a Randy Orton's legend, an Austin legend, or they did make a Rey Mysterio legend, but I didn't buy it at the time. I'll put it up. Rock, Flair. Flair's stupid. He's in AEW, so it'll be a minute. But I'm looking up there. I just counted 17 of these dudes are dead.
Oh, Jesus.
Now that Hogan died, there's 17 dead ones.
That is the moment of clarity, Reflectionites, because he is the official gatekeeper of the IWC, YWC, PWC punditry. He's the official gatekeeper of social media conundrums and all that stuff. But
Warrior's up there twice, so 3 times. So he technically could be 19 of these guys, because I got Warrior with the face paint, the pink belt. I got Old Man Warrior, and I got Dingo Warrior. So they have different looks. So I got British Bulldog with braids, Wembley Stadium. Then I got British Bulldog, short hair, Heart Foundation. And they're coming out with a new one, British Bulldog with the curly hair without the braids when he teamed with Lex. That'll be up there.
Are you going to get the LJN stuff that's going to be
I ordered. So the sad thing is they pulled Hogan. He's on the back of the packages. They pulled him when I pre-ordered. I pre-ordered Cena and Dusty. I did not get Logan Paul and Hogan when they announced them. And literally, they announced them on Raw. My buddy Jeff, who, by the way, I've had sad news about Jeff, he texted me and said, it's up for pre-order. I clicked the pre-order. It was already sold out. Because people are ridiculous. But fear not. Because I already have the OG, so I don't need the new one. But I wanted Cena and I wanted Dusty because I kind of wanted one that didn't exist and one that should have existed to go with the ones that I have. I got Brett, I got Warrior, I got Kirshner, Sheik, I got Andre. And then over the years, people have given them to me. I've paid for 0. They've all been from friends. But my buddy Jeff, I've talked about him on here. Scotty Libido is my manager. Worked for Impact. Did interview with Big Ray. He was diagnosed with stage 4 liver and stomach cancer. He's a warrior. He's a fighter. He's fighting it. They did a GoFundMe for him. I shared it on my Facebook. He's in good spirits. Thursday finds out this coming up Thursday. It'll be hindsight after this. Well, this might air before Thursday, but they'll find out the first procedure. They're gonna cut out some stuff and then do radiation. They told him he's gonna be in for a rough fight, but they're still optimistic. So my friends that pray for Jeff Kavanaugh, for me, for him, and he's gonna beat it, man. I tell him every day I love him, and I tell him every day he's gonna have to put up with me. Tell him I love him every day for years to come.
Positive energy from the PWR Reflection podcast to Jeff Kavanaugh, and beat this. Cancer is a bitch. Cancer is a motherfucker. Let's beat it together, PWR Reflectionites. Let's do it for Jeff Kavanaugh. And, hopefully, again, positive energy, TW, positive energy, Jeff Kavanaugh. That's what it is. If you stay positive, good things will happen.
Things happen, yep.
So with that being said, let's start this Rivalries edition. And I gave TW a doozy because, again, it's one of his favorite tag teams of all time. So I figure I'm going to pull a wild card on TW because I pulled, yeah, it is. It's two of them, but with a caveat, Reflectionites. I picked a Rivalries special between the Fantastics of Tommy Rogers and Bobby Fulton against the Midnight Express. But the caveat, Reflectionites, is there are 3 versions of the Midnight Express that I had TW watch. One version with Loverboy Dennis and Beautiful Bobby. The second one with TW's favorite, Sweet Stan Lane and Beautiful Bobby. And the ultimate wild card is the original Midnight Express with Ravishing Randy Rose and Loverboy Dennis. So before we get into the matches, we're gonna celebrate these 2 top-tier tag teams because, again, TW, what is very unique about this rivalry, it went through multiple territories. It went through multiple states. And you know what that meant? They made a lot of money for their promoters. They made a lot of money at the gates. So they put in a chunk of change on this. So with the Fantastics and the Midnight Express, TW, what say you about these 2, elements together? Because, again, the cohesion is there, the chemistry is there, and the rivalry, the Fantastics and the Midnight Express is as on par with Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express and all that stuff. So what say you about this particular rivalry?
It might be even a little better for the diehards because Rock and Roll and Midnight was basically NWA. Sure, they might have had some matches for Memphis or something, Florida, off whatever. But these guys feuded in World Class. They feuded in UWF. Well, not UWF, but Mid-South. And they feuded finally in the NWA. And I like that when the Fantastics finally got there in a WWE move, Cornette acted like they were some new team that they didn't know nothing about, even though they had history. And at least in the one promo for the Crockett Cup stuff. And they worked very, very well together. One of the matches had such a good finish. I think it was that match where they went to do the rocket launcher and Bobby Fulton got pulled away by Tommy Rogers, and then he got up there and then beat him with their own move. Very, very. One thing I will say about this, good Lord, every single match we watched, whether that building's full, quarter full, half full, it is loud for the entire match. It's and it's so simple. Bobby Fulton does stuff that's basically heel. He gets whipped to the ropes and he grabs the ropes and stops and then shakes his ass and turns around and struts. I did that stuff as a heel all the time and the crowd would boo. He does it. The crowd goes bananas for him. And it was just such a good time, man. I say it all the time. I thought about this and I think you'd agree with me. For us, I think you'll agree with me. Maybe not because you love that ECW crowd, but when we were kids, the beauty of wrestling was we all cheered the good guy. We all booed the bad guy. There wasn't any division in the audience. People got mad when the DDT, Ricky Steamboat on the concrete, everybody was mad at Jake the Snake, right? And then, late 80s, early 90s, it started turning a little bit, myself included. I started liking the cool heels, but I was also in high school and wanting Chase Skirt, and I wanted to be cool like Rick Rude or like Macho Man. I didn't want to be an ass kisser like who could you say is an ass kisser? Kendall Windham, Sam Houston, come out and just kiss ass.
Pick your poison right there.
Right, yeah. But guys like that who they're not super over, they're not over, they're just kind of there, so they got to do the babyface thing and hope they get over. It's just fun to be a heel. But the modern day version of that, or at least 10 years ago, is let's go Cena sucks. The people that grew up with that, they're going to look back on that fondly, and they're going to love the way the audience went back and forth with each other. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But we can all agree that the current audience is going to look back in absolute disgust at themselves and embarrassment, because if I hear them sing one more person's song or fucking chant someone's name saying Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes, I want to strangle every one of them.
That's the evolution of fandom, TW.
No,
just like the evolution of
devaluation of the fan. It's terrible. It's that Monday night after WrestleMania crowd that hijacks the audience and makes it suck for the wrestlers, and it makes it suck for the diehards like us that just want to see a good match.
Well, I want to expound on something before we talk about these matches, Reflectionites, that TW said, is that what makes this rivalry intriguing, and TW kind of said it a little bit, but I will harp on it in a different way, is that I showed TW about 4 or 5 matches, Reflectionites, and I kid you not, you had 4 or 5 different finishes for these particular matches. And it coincides with a story. It coincides with maybe a championship. It just coincides with the rivalry, TW. And we'll talk about certain matches from certain territories. But again, the uniqueness that these two had so much chemistry with each other that you had, how I think we made fun of like the Tito Santana Macho Man Randy Savage rivalry that I jokingly said it was the same finish everywhere in the United States, but at least that part of the state with their local television saw it, so it didn't feel like, oh, we're repeating ourselves. They made a conscious effort to be different in World Class, in Mid-South, in NWA, TW. Is this a Southern thing, or is this just the...
I'm going to tell you what it is. All
right.
I thought, as I'm watching all these matches, right, as a wrestler, I started as a singles guy. First 11 matches against Rico. Now for the next couple of years, all my matches, if we're not in tag team matches, me and Rico as Los Rudos, we were in captain's matches or, representing, we didn't, captain's matches is just only 2 guys wrestle that night. We would have one-on-one matches against the guys that we already had tag matches with in the feud, and then end up having the big blow-off tag match. And whenever you're in a tag team, I can't speak for everybody, but I just always assumed everybody felt this way. You're like, this is great and all, but I want to be the man. And now at 52 years old, looking back on wrestling 10 years straight and then another 5 years after I came back, you always... You look back at it with a different lens than you did when you were in it. And I can promise you, I had more fun with Jeff Kavanaugh as my manager and Chris Pilon as my partner, or Chris Valentino as my partner, Mike Legacy as my partner, and obviously Rico as my partner. Pilon and I teamed as the Canadian Imperial Alliance, but before I even became Los Rudos in Canada, because I was already in the States, I teamed with him as Purple Haze, completely different gimmick, no libido, no nothing. I had more fun wrestling as a tag team. Travis, most of our matches were him and Danny Daniels as Too Delicious, and he was Devin Daniels, but ECW made him change his name to Danny Daniels. You probably know him as a referee, but he was a wrestler with Travis as Too Hot or Too Delicious. All my matches and tag team matches, they were fun. So yeah, you had finishing maneuvers and you had stuff like that, but that's another difference here is they're all clean finishes, but they're all won differently out of nowhere. I've talked about that a million times. I wish wrestling would do that again instead of the formula boot to the face, leg drop, gut rest, Hulk Hogan. But having every match end the same way for every wrestler when they go over clean, or if they cheat to win, whatever. Anyways, they probably did different finishes everywhere because they were probably having a blast doing it. Whereas Tito and Macho Man, at that point, it probably feels like work when you're on your 30th town in 30 days, and the easiest way to do it is to just do the same thing every day so you don't forget nothing. You kind of just lack the enthusiasm. I'm getting a bad text, I think. It's not making me happy.
You mean like they? Oh boy. Give us a second reflection. But from what TW to me, what I agree with, at least with this rivalry Reflectionites, is that when I said that you have 4 or 5 matches that are different endings and all that stuff, it's like they didn't phone it in. They wanted for each particular city, each particular arena, each particular company to get something different out of that rivalry and all that stuff. So that's the way I want to look at it from that standpoint. So hopefully, TW, is everything okay? Can we continue?
Yeah, it's something I already knew. I thought she was sending me a picture showing me my kid either failed summer school or what, which is not even over yet. So I didn't know, but it's something I already know. It's just money.
No, but again, like I said, with the different finishes, different towns, different companies, they didn't phone it in. That's the
right.
way. That was the beauty of the Midnight Express and Fantastic's rivalry, in my opinion. And again, you can't always have something different for 50 different states. I understand that, but at least for maybe a certain storyline run in Mid-South or a certain storyline run in NWA, they made it different to a certain degree to give you a different finish. And that's what I appreciated with the matches that I saw and I gave to you. Agree with that or have a different take?
Yes, but I also say this. I'm not knocking NWA, but definitely world class, definitely Mid-South. A lot of these guys, even though it's a territory, and the territory like Memphis might also include Oklahoma and Tennessee, or Memphis is Tennessee, but Georgia, Kentucky, mm-hmm. People would travel. People would see all 3 matches if it was within an hour or two. Like the Miz talked about Ozzy. If Ozzy performed anywhere within 2, I think he said 5 hours, anywhere within 5 hours of him, he went and saw Ozzy. And you hear these audiences, they're rabid, man. There's probably girls that are chasing the Fantastics, some probably chasing the Midnight Express, especially the Stan Lane version, because they ain't nobody trying to get Dennis Condrey. But but they might travel. They might go on a Friday to Louisville and then Saturday to Memphis and Sunday to Tulsa,
Because they can't get enough of that. They can't get enough of that match. You're right.
If you go out there and have a carbon copy match, whereas Tito and Monster Man, most people aren't going from Boston to New York to Philly to Detroit. So you could do it and get away with it. Like I was telling you this in the past. They would wrestle here on Friday or Saturday night at Joe Louis Arena or Cobo Hall, mm-hmm. and the next day they would wrestle in Toledo in the afternoon. And then Cincinnati that night. There's a good chance somebody went to all 3. Mm-hmm. if they're diehards. There's no way they did the same match. No way. Unless they thought them getting from Toledo to Detroit, especially if they left Detroit right after their match, get down to Toledo and the show starts before this one ends, because that's a possibility, right? That is. If everybody's leaving right after their match, then there's a chance they do the same match, because there's no way a fan's making it to see both if they watch it here and they go down there. But it and you know what? It's again, territories are a little more snug than what the NWA went on to be when they're wrestling in Chicago and Baltimore and St. Louis and Detroit. Detroit did a few.
You're right. That 3-hour trip makes it intimate and the passion for the fans, but also there ain't no recession. That's a myth. That's a conspiracy theory right there. So neither here nor there. But let's talk about the combustible elements within this rivalries. And again, we're going to start off with the baby faces here. One of TW's top 3 tag teams of all time, and that's Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers, the Fantastics. And let's be fair here, TW, because the Fantastics was a ripoff of the Fabulous Ones, Steve Keirn and Stan Lane. They were first, and the Fantastics were second, because their first original name were the Fantastic Ones. So, that's just the logistics of history. But you've always had an affinity for the Fantastic, and you even say that sometimes they're even better than the Rock and Roll Express. They were better than the Lightning Express for you because of the UWF years. You saw the Fantastics. So, what say you about the Fantastics, their cohesion, their chemistry, and why you put them in that hierarchy in TW's Mount Rushmore?
Well, first of all, everyone's a ripoff of somebody. So at the end of the day, but I wouldn't say obviously the Fantastics drew from the Fabulous Ones, but Fabulous Ones were two blondes. They had a blonde and a brunette, and I always thought White Lightning was the UWS attempt to replace the Fantastics, because Brad Armstrong and Tim Horner, pretty sure, were after the Fantastics were gone and went to WCW, because they were in WCW in 87, 88, maybe just 88. And 87 was when I was watching them in UWF. But just like with the Rockers and the Rock and Roll Express, it's not like I don't like the Rock and Roll Express. I just like what Sean and Marty did better. It's kind of like you look and see what worked for the Fabulous Ones, and you do that, and you don't do the stuff that didn't work. So you almost have a cheat card, if you will, because you're going to do something, similar, but you're going to do something different because you know that, like, they didn't have beards. They didn't look like Chippendale dancers per se, even though they had the coattails.
Right, but that's part of the reason why they are. I'm not going to say they're ripoffs, but they took from the Fabulous Ones because, again, they wore the Chippendale suit and tie. They had the bow tie. They had the top hats. So they took from Steve Kerr and Stan Lane and did the wiggles and shit like that. So, and of course, they took the ZZ Top theme songs for the Mid-South and all that stuff, just like the Fabulous Ones did. So, again, if we had social media, TW, honestly, they would be the tribalism of who's better, the Fantastics or the Fabulous Ones. And of course, one of the digs is, the Fabulous Ones are first. These are just these are the rejects. It's like Demolition and Road Wars. You would have that kind of tribalism army. And I know TW is going to say, well, they're not the same. Demolition is not the same from the Road Wars in terms of presentation and style. But that's one of the first digs. Who's the first, and then who's the imitators and all that stuff.
I would say absolutely anybody so it's just like anything on the social media today, whether it's politics, whether it's wrestling, tribalism. You see what you want to see, right? So if you're a diehard Fabulous Ones, I don't think there are any, but if you are, you're going to look at the Fantastics and think, this is a ripoff. I never looked at them and thought that, ever. It's obvious now in retrospect, but I've seen the Fabulous Ones in magazines. I don't know that I've ever watched the Fabulous Ones wrestle. I've probably seen clips. So just in the fact that we're talking about the Fantastics now, and we're doing a rivalry on them now, and Stan Lane's part of that rivalry, but with a different team that he did better with Bobby Eaton than he ever did with Steve Keirn, I would say the Fantastics definitely surpassed the Fabulous Ones. I would say, I don't know that I would say the Rockers surpassed the Rock and Roll Express, because obviously they weren't 4-time tag team champions. They didn't have, whatever. But I would definitely say they're in the same discussion as the Rock and Roll Express's success. Like, they were popular and people know who they are. Just they broke up, and Sean went on to have a obviously much better singles career than any of these tag teams we're talking about.
Here's the only thing that I will put my dig against the Fantastics. Stan, at the time of 84 and 85, no Diddy, but the Fabulous Ones were a more attractive tag team for the female audience than the Fantastics because of Bobby Fulton. Bobby Fulton with that dad bod gut. Tommy Rogers was the sexy one of the bunch. Don't get me wrong. But in comparison to the Fabulous Ones, you had two blonde studs, and then the Fantastics was the dad bod gut, and Tommy Rogers was the one carrying for the women ring rats. That's just the way I looked at it. I'm sorry.
I'll say this. I definitely, there's definitely a window of that. But even in the 5 matches we've watched, his body progressed. And one of them, it's either when they're the U.S. champs already or they win it. Bobby Fulton is in way better shape in that match than he is in the beginning, right?
I give you that.
But he and I are friends on Facebook, and I didn't know this. Like, when he first started out, do you know who Jake Something is?
The one from TNA? Yeah.
So Jake Something's got like that almost Bruiser Brody kind of look, but he's jacked, right? Like, he's like He-Man with Bruiser Brody's hair. But Bobby Fulton puts pictures up all the time, but when he first started out, I want to say it was even as a teenager, he had like a miniature Andre the Giant body almost. Like, he didn't look like he was in the gym, right? Like, obviously Tommy Rogers was like he lived in the damn gym, but Bobby Fulton's look was almost like a Bruiser Brody type guy. And he's not a very big guy, but that's what the look. He had the tights, and I'm pretty sure it was the 70s. And to see him there and to see him as the Fantastics, night and day body transformation, right? And then his hair was a little bit more sandy brown than it was bleach blonde. Towards the end, it was bleach blonde. Once they got, and they were in WCW, and they were there for enough time that they're making money, and they're, still one of the greatest matches of all time to me. Fantastic's first Eddie Gilbert, Ron Simmons.
Of course.
That's the best. He's peaking there. He looks great, And so I would say on the flip side of that, Stan Lane is much better looking in Midnight Express than he is as a Fabulous One, because that long hair, chest hair, beard, that's a very specific look that some women like, some women don't. Whereas as a Midnight Express, Fantastics, Rock and Roll Express, Rockers, they're all straight up pretty boys. That's what they are. They're not Magnum PI, they're not Magnum TA. They're pretty boys. And in the beginning, yes, Bobby Fulton was a little behind Tommy Rogers. And then once they got the wheels rolling and all that, Bobby Fulton was in better shape than you're giving him credit for now.
I'm just saying he had that dad bod gut. That's all. Isn't that, again, dad bods are endearing.
Guess who had the dad bod before him? Ricky and Robert. They looked like they were allergic to the gym. So by the way, the two of us talking about dudes' bodies on this podcast, we have officially jumped the shark, for the record. And so, fun story. The day I met Hulk Hogan was at the Dayton, Ohio Great American Bash 1995. The night before I wrestled in Chillicothe, Ohio, which is where Bobby Fulton runs shows now. I think he's from there, or at least lives there now. He came into the locker room, and a lot of people didn't recognize him. He was in great shape, but he'd come in. He had short hair, shorter than Tommy Rogers. And when he was saying hi to everybody, someone said, "Bobby?" And he looked. He's like, "Dude, you look different." He had stopped dyeing his hair blonde, and he probably won't remember this, but I'm sitting there. He's talking to all of us. He's like, yeah, he stopped getting the bleached blonde hair because after so many years of doing it, when you get it done, it makes your scalp bleed because it's the bleach is destroying the skin on your head. So he stopped dyeing his hair blonde. But super nice guy. He's super nice guy on Facebook. Man of God. Got to respect that. He too battled cancer. I'm pretty sure he's in remission now. Hope he is. Somebody I would pray for as well. Yep.
Well, you know what? It's Bobby Fulton. I know you're going to share this to Bobby Fulton. Bobby Fulton, dad bods are still endearing for a lot of, middle-aged women right now. They're in right now. So what you had, you was way ahead of the times, Bobby Fulton, even back then. But anyway,
Edge and Christian used to call me the fat skinny guy behind my back until I found out, and not necessarily Christian, but Edge and Legend, Joey Legend. But I always sign off fat skinny guy whenever we correspond.
It just makes sense. I can picture it right now that you're the fat skinny guy. But anyway, neither here nor there. But of course, the Fantastics, they need a dance partner. And you cannot have a better dance partner than one of the top 5 tag teams of all time. And again, you have variations of this tag team, but the Midnight Express with Jim Cornette at the helm as the manager with his tennis racket. You either have the combination of Loverboy Dennis and Beautiful Bobby, or Sweet Stan and Beautiful Bobby. And of course, we'll do the original Midnight Express, even though they don't count. But Ravishing Randy and Loverboy
version of Midnight Express.
You said that, I didn't. But anyway, neither here nor there. But what say you about the Midnight Express? I know you're going to say Sweet Stan and Bobby Eaton is the best combination. I got that. But I'm just talking about the dance partner for this Rivalries.
Stan and Bobby, or are you talking about all three?
All three. Jesus Christ.
So seriously. All right, let's do it. Loverboy Steve and Dennis Condrey. Obviously, I didn't see them before I saw Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton. They reunited under Paul Lee. I remember watching that stuff as a kid when they brought those guys back. They were a little longer in the tooth. And I remember watching these matches thinking, hopefully they were doing this 10 years earlier when they were a little younger, little whatever. Because I think Dennis Condrey wore one knee pad and he tied a bandana around it. And the other one, he had grandpa leg with his briefs and then his boots. You know how much I hate that.
He hardly wore knee pads. He rarely
but
did.
This particular match, he had a knee pad on, and he tied his knee with a bandana around it. And it wasn't your favorite one, the Southern Flag. It was just a regular Marlboro red smoking cowboy hat wearing bandana. And And Loverboy, what's his name? No, he's Loverboy. Ravishing Randy. What was it? Randy what?
Randy Rose.
Randy Rose. He looked like, all right, you want me to wrestle some more matches? I'll come back. But like he was already selling cars somewhere when he was done. So I wasn't too familiar with him. And the thing I'm going to make fun of, and this is why I'm saying Stan and Bobby as a whole. Dennis and Randy Rose are after Bobby and Stan, and Dennis and Bobby are before him. If you look at their gear, Bobby Eaton looks like he's wearing literally his mom's bathrobe, and someone just put a Eaton on the back of it, right? Dennis Condry's is worse, but at least has a rose on it or something on it. But it looked like just very paper thin material. And then he comes back, he's teaming with Randy Rose. They almost have the identical thing on. It's just he's got lips on his or something. I don't remember. But it's just,
you know what? No, I'll give it to you. Sweet Stan Lane was about the presentation. I will give Sweet Stan Lane.
They invested in the look.
But
it's probably like why I like them more is the visual. Stan Lane, and he did something. I don't think anyone else does this. Like AJ Styles modern day has a vest with the hood and he does the whole deal, right? That's a little different, but because of him, other people now wear hoods and whatever. Stan Lane didn't wear a robe. He didn't wear a jacket. He wore almost like the thing you'd wear to a massage parlor that you got to wear to cover up before you lay down. Like it was almost like a mini skirt. Like it was just so different than anything anybody else was wearing. I think Ricky and Robert wore vests or denim jackets or whatever. Obviously the Fantastics wore the vests with the tails.
They did both.
But Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton, to me, they looked more like a team. They wrestled more like a team. I don't know if Dennis and Bobby did the rocket launcher too, but I know Stan and Bobby did. And even though I really, really like Bobby and Stan, they're in my top 5 too. The Fantastics did more tag team stuff, not tripping your partner while the other one drops an elbow. They did the throw to the rope, punch to the gut, either neck breaker or knee lift, whatever. They did a lot of fun team things. And obviously Bobby and Tommy, I could relate because I was this way in the 90s. They weren't the biggest guys in the ring. So they had to do that tag team stuff because I think they said their combined weight was 420. That makes them both 210. When I wrestled at 210, I was 190. So I'm going to assume they did the same thing, right? By the time I got to 220, I was 207. I think I got up to 217 legit at some point. But for the most part, most of my career, I was hovering around the 200 and 210 pound mark, plus even lighter than that at first. But these guys they were fluid. And Stan and Bobby, compared to Bobby and Dennis and Randy, they're just smooth. They're more of a well-oiled machine than two guys just tagging in and out with each other and holding the arm up while the other guy punches them in the side.
I'll give you all the credit. I will agree with that. I think, in my opinion, and you'll agree with this, I think Stan Lane took the presentation to heart. He was very serious about it. And being in the NWA, he thought that was better marketing for them to, dress the part, if you will, because we saw some
matched. He had shorts that matched the pants of Bobby Eaton.
Yeah. And in the world class of Loverboy Dennis and Bobby Eaton Reflectionites, they didn't match at all. Bobby would wear blue. Dennis would wear green. It was just some funny shit. But Dennis didn't give a fuck. That's what it was, and that's why Dennis left the first time. That's why he was replaced. But they neither here nor there. But let's talk about some of these classic matches, TW. And again, like I said, Reflectionites, every match had a different finish. And it was just very unique to me. I just appreciated it a lot more to see that these four combustible elements, Reflectionites, put a lot of effort into the thinking, the psychology, TW, about having something different for each different territory, each different company, and all that stuff. So with the first one, there was no commentary, Reflectionites. So TW had a little bit of difficulty of watching this particular match because he needs to hear like Bob Cottle. He needs to hear Jim Ross. But of course,
I didn't even notice.
You did not notice the first one.
I just watched it and just one of them I wanted to strangle you because it was 37 minutes long. But
I'm sorry, but
I watched it all. It was good.
The first one was from 1984, Reflectionites. It was the Mid-South in Oklahoma City. And this finish was beautiful because at the end of this one, TW, it was like there was a chain spot.
Yes.
And what I loved about that chain spot is, again, it's like you said, when you do, the good guys will eventually win. But what I love was, again, that spot at the ropes where Bobby Fulton takes the legs of Bobby Eaton, and of course, Tommy Rogers does the small cradle on Dennis Condrey and gets the win. I just love that match. And like you said, when you're in that Mid-South Oklahoma City territory right there, TW, you hear the women hollering. They are hollering for, Dad Bod, Bobby Fulton. They are hollering for Tommy Rogers. So let's say about that Oklahoma City match. There was no Jim Ross. There was no Bill Watts on commentary. It was just about the fans, the ambiance, and, the bad camera angles, but neither here nor there. What say you?
It's insane. And like I said, if I could find a time machine and I could go back to 97 and get my peak body, and I could then go back to 84 and wrestle in a Mid-South area, a world-class area. I don't know about Memphis. Memphis, they're it's studio, so who knows how rabid it really is. But like I'm telling you, them Texas Stadium shows in this Mid-South, where were they at, the Mid-South Coliseum or something? What?
No, this was Oklahoma City in Mid-South.
Okay, well, either way, the Mid-South territory, the UWF stuff, all that stuff, the crowds are so awesome, man. Like I have to believe there are people who were just flipping through the channels and wrestling was on, and they heard the crowd and went, "What's this?" And that's what hooked them. They watched it, and the crowd just made them want to be a part of that crowd. And I just got to say this: you keep messing with my man Bobby Fulton. And God rest Tommy Rogers. God rest Tommy Rogers' soul. I met Tommy Rogers. We did a triple shot. I think I lost my belt to Marty.
Wait. Hold on. I am not messing with the Fantastics. Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers got poontang in Oklahoma City. They got poontang in Texas.
Right.
They got poontang everywhere. I can't make fun of that.
I got to stick up for Bobby real quick.
Okay.
Tommy Rogers, nice guy. Shared locker with him 3 days. I think I lost the title to Jannetty. He won it from Jannetty, I think. And the next night he lost it to my boy Larry Destiny. I think that's how it went. But forgive me, I've had a lot of concussions. But Bobby Fulton is the Shawn Michaels of the Fantastics. He is not the Marty Jannetty.
Whoa.
Yep.
I would think it's the reverse. Nope. But that's just me.
Bobby Fulton promotes down in his hometown. He still does appearances. He's still over. He's still doing his thing. Obviously not wrestling anymore, but he kept going. And obviously, unfortunately, Tommy Rogers is no longer with us. But if you watch him do promos, Bobby Fulton did the better promo than Tommy. Tommy did okay, but Bobby did better. And this dude shares my name, and I'm still siding with Bobby.
Well, anything that you wanted to talk about with this Oklahoma City match with the I love the finish, the way that he tripped him from behind.
Man. It's awesome, and it made me I watched UWF, obviously Mid-South turned into UWF, so this is before that. And it's got me thinking, damn, how much Mid-South and UWF is there before I even got turned on to it? Because when I started watching it, I'm pretty sure it was 87 when I started watching it, maybe late 86. You're telling me this match is in 84. Fantastics are there. They're there in 87 when I'm watching this. I want to say it's not this match. It's the world-class match where Terry Taylor gets in the ring. Young, short-haired Terry Taylor comes in to check on Tommy Rogers and Bobby Fulton after they get – it's the promo that you sent me.
Well, there's a hook to this Oklahoma City match, TW, because, again, there was a footage before that, but it was more Mid-South oriented. And, again, I'm not saying this Oklahoma City match was a payoff, but you got where they started it because they did a contract signing Reflectionites. Yes. And, of course, the way the Fantastics looked, they were in all white, and you knew that when you're wearing all white, TW.
Tails, baby.
With tails, they were going to get blood on that shit. It was almost... You could tell if you was a smart
pay for those suits themselves to wear them one time. That's dedication to the craft.
It is dedication to the craft. But again, that's a Mid-South, studio thing that happened, and then of course it parlayed to Oklahoma City. I just want to give the logistics.
Why was Jim Cornette wearing a mask?
Of course, it's just because I think he got his face hit. You know how Bobby Fulton with he kind of potatoes you. I'll give you this.
By the way, that promo. Some of the stiffest chair shots I've ever seen in my life. They made me think about Ken Shamrock taking them chairs from The Rock. Insanity.
I mean, again, that we can't say that started the blood feud of the Rivalries edition, but at least you could tell from that Mid-South.
There's blood and there's feuding.
That is true. I'm just saying, but you could tell from that Mid-South studio show, TW, and again to the Oklahoma City thing, you got to start somewhere. So let's combine that because again. You're right. That chair wasn't gimmicked. They were bleeding.
I thought he hit him with the tennis racket because of how hard he hit him. And then when he moved, I saw the dent in the seat. And I went, that's a chair? And then the one I think he threw at Tommy Rogers, he hit him and I think let it go. So it just potatoed him with that, and then they hit him a couple more times.
Those are some hard auditorium steel chairs there. You can't gimmick those.
Hell.
Yeah. So what say ATW? The whole ambiance of that to the Oklahoma City thing, that's some beautiful work right there.
The only thing I can think of is they went to a thrift store, and there just happened to be brides, grooms, gimmicks that got sold, and they had pigtails or coattails, whatever they're called, and they were like, we have to buy these, and got them. Otherwise, they bought these brand new suits to get them all gimmicked up. There's no way they wore them again because that had to be. And why would they dress like that for a signing? Were they on their way to a wedding?
That was their gimmick, man. They were like
they walked around just in suits like Colonel Robert Parker.
Well, again, like you said, they thought it looked good. And
it did look good. In '84, it looked great.
That's Chippendale shit right there. That's the Chippendale suit.
Chippendales don't wear any clothes, pal.
I know, but that's the tearaway shit. You know that. That's a tearaway suit.
Oh.
You tear away the pants. You tear away
maybe they had Dark Journey in the back sewing them up for them right in the beginning.
Again, Bobby,
Anyway, it's dedication.
Anyway, Bobby can attest to all this stuff. We're just speculating. But anyway, neither here nor there. So the second match, TW, we will travel all the way to Texas and the world famous Sportatorium. And this was for the America's Tag Team Championships. The Fantastics was coming into this match as the champions, and of course, the Midnight Express were the challengers. And again, Oklahoma City Reflectionites, Dennis and Bobby. Dennis wore green, Bobby wore blue. This one, Dennis wore red, Bobby wore blue. So you can say red, white, and blue. But the funny thing, TW, was and Bobby's blue. Well, yeah, that too. But Bobby's blue was consistent with Oklahoma City and fucking Texas. He didn't change, or he kept rewashing the same thing. He was cheap with his money. He wanted to keep it all in the bank account. So Bobby Eaton was a cheap skate, but he was doing it for his family. I got to give him props for that shit.
He was frugal,
a good word. That's a compliment. Dude, I'm saying he's a cheap skate.
In the peak Los Rudos, I bought different outside stuff, but I basically had 3 different pairs of shorts that we wrestled in all the time. Matter of fact, it might have been 2. We had black denim and khaki denim, and then whatever shirts we wore. You just wash it afterwards.
But TW, we have to talk about this again because this is not world class. We know that the girls are screaming for the Von Erichs, but it doesn't hurt to get the overlay of the Ring Rats and the fantastic overflow, tomato. But anyway,
you guys in San Francisco call it something else. I get it.
I ain't from San Francisco, but neither here nor there. But
vacation there.
Jesus Christ. But anyway, that was work. That was work related. But anyway, TW, again, the Von Erichs, they get all the pussy first. And of course, the overflow.
You want me to share this with Bobby, man? We got to clean it up a little bit.
Bobby, this is endearing. I'm giving Bobby props. He's getting the overflow of the women that the Von Erichs can't have. You can see they wanna rape him. That's good. What say TW about the sports? You love the sports. This is a great environment, and of course, the Midnight Express become the new America's Tag Team Champions here.
Man, if I had 3 wishes, I probably wouldn't be able to use one on this because I already used them on other things. But if I had unlimited wishes, I would wish that the Sportatorium was packed every Friday night still, and that every wrestler ever got to experience it, and both as a heel and as a babyface. Like it's just. As a matter of fact, the Oklahoma match, to go back real quick, when the Fantastics won, but I think this is the match. It's later on. But either way, Jim Cornette throws a fit, and the crowd's still cheering like crazy. In the middle of them cheering like crazy, Jim Cornette raises the hands of Condrey and Eaton, raises them up, and the whole crowd immediately stops cheering and boos. That is magic, man. To do, you couldn't even do that now.
No, I think you're talking about the world class. No, I think you're talking about the world class.
Oklahoma. It's either because I think
Fantastics won the Oklahoma match.
Right. Midnight after they won. That's why I think it was Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
It might be that Crockett tournament thing, but that's Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton. It's whatever one where Jim Cornette's wearing gear. He's got like big diaper on.
Oh, that's the Great American Bash one. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. The crowds are so. It doesn't matter. Pick a crowd. Oklahoma, Memphis, world class. The crowds, they react when you want them to react. And I think I told you this. I tell all the young guys when I meet them and I go to shows, I'm like, listen, man, if you don't pop the crowd, they're going to sit on their hands. You got to give them a reason for being there, because they can just stay home and watch it on TV nowadays. So if you're not in the crowd pointing at people and you know, popping the crowd, good or bad guys, then why are they there? And these guys do it every match. Like I said, that match with the tournament, where the 7th seed and the 2 seed or whatever, when Bobby Fulton shakes his ass and then turns around and struts, the place goes bananas, and it's their first time, supposedly their first night in NWA. They're finally there. They're this young team that whatever, and bam, he pops the crowd on a reversal. It's like you just know when you got him in the palm of your hand. All 4 of these guys, there's 2 more. There's 6. There's 6 guys. And Jim Cornette. They all know when to pop the crowd. Or at least they know to pop the crowd. Not say when, you just do it, right?
They know how to get a reaction from the crowd, good, bad, or indifferent.
And the stuff that Bobby and Tommy are doing, they're 1,000% getting overflow. They probably get it without even doing anything, but they get it because there's only so many women Kerry can love. Somebody else got to tag in. That's
very true. But with this Texas match, TW, again, this is a different finish. Right. And Jim Cornette for the world class finish uses the infamous tennis racket on Tommy Rogers for the Midnight Express to become the American Tag Team Champion. And then when they raised their hands, the Sportatorium, the women were pissed and all that stuff because again, the cutie pie, Tommy Rogers is hurt, he's unconscious and all that stuff, and Bobby Fulton is pissed off and all this shit. What's AETW about that world-class match for the American Tag Team Championship?
I mean, you can't say Jim Cornette and not say tennis racket. You can't say Honky Tonk Man and not say guitar. They use them. Macho King and the Scepter. You use these stuff, they become infamous. They become, you almost know, like...
Oh. TW, one more thing, because again, we forgot about this, because we could parlay the Oklahoma City and Texas match. The one thing I loved about the finishes of both, there was one consistent thing, was the winning team was able to hold off their tag team partners from stopping the count. Like the America's Tag Team Champion, Loverboy Dennis, oh no, it was Bobby Eaton holding Bobby Fulton, you know, and then vice versa with Oklahoma City. It was just funny, but that's the only consistent thing.
That's consistency, and it saves the team because it stops people saying, how come Tommy didn't help Bobby or Bobby didn't help Tommy? Because Loverboy helped Stan. And then the next time when Bobby Eaton tries to stop Dennis Condrey from getting pinned, Tommy Rogers stops him or Bobby Fulton stops him. It's just teamwork. It gives credence to tag team wrestling existing. Because tag team wrestling didn't used to be like, tag team wrestling was legit just 2 singles guys that they put on the same show so they could use everybody. And then thanks to guys like the Rock and Roll Express and the Fantastics and the Midnights and the Rockers and the Demolitions and the Road Warriors, all these guys looked like team. Well, Stan Lane and Bobby, they looked like teams. And so British Bulldogs, come on, man. When you were a kid and you saw the British Bulldogs, you're like, what the hell? And that's what I would say.
But you're giving a lot of credit to the 80s, but there was something happening. The cable TV explosion,
right.
MTV and all that stuff. So again, people took advantage of that. But we cannot forget like the 60s and the 70s, like the Valiant Brothers were tag teams and the Samoans were there and all that stuff.
But I'm saying the style wasn't team moves. It was 2 singles guys. You just tagged in. You had all the hold the arm up and the guy punches him in the rib. You didn't have.
I hear you. But I'm just saying we got to give credence to there still were tag teams in the 60s.
They made it where tag team wrestling existed, but these guys revolutionized it to where they're making money. They're selling merch. Like I said, Ricky Morton in that comeback match against Ric Flair where the lights go out and White Snake's Here I Go Again on My Own comes on. Dude, that's a tag team wrestler who probably isn't even 6 feet tall. The entire building is there to see him. And it's because of all the magic these tag teams made that made everybody like everybody that was associated with it. And these crowds, world class and in Oklahoma, all of them, they eat this stuff up, man. Like perfect example. I always talk about this match. Ron Simmons and Eddie Gilbert are not a tag team For whatever reason, they were teaming in that tournament. Maybe they were teaming a couple weeks leading up to it. But we don't have a team name for them. We don't talk about them as the greatest tag team of all time. But when they wrestled the Fantastics in the finals of that U.S. tag tournament, it was magic. It was absolute magic. And it's because the Fantastics and Eddie Gilbert obviously had history. Ron Simmons, he's great. So the four of them just made magic. It was great. And imagine now 2 actual tag teams, Fantastics and the Midnight Express. Of course they're going to make magic. That's what they do is tag team wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Of course. So let's get into the favorite period of TW with the Midnight Express. We're going to talk about the NWA years. And this one happened in March 27, 1988. This was like a worldwide wrestling taping TW. There was no U.S. tag team titles on the line. I think it was like an eliminator match. I think the Fantastics had to prove.
It was something about seedings.
Yeah, it was something about seeding. Maybe it was seedings for the Crockett Cup and all that stuff. I don't remember. But again, this was not for the title. But it's like what TW said earlier. This was the rocket launcher finish. Again, a different variation, but still the crowd popped for the shit. So what say you? Now you got your team. They're matching to a degree. They're consistent with Sweet Stan Lane, Beautiful Bobby, and the Fantastics going crazy here.
It's gold, man. It's gold. Like whether it's Bobby Eaton in there with Bobby Fulton, whether it's Stan Lane in there with Tommy Rogers or the other switch, they just gelled. They worked well together. The finish was awesome because Stan Lane isn't looking and throws Bobby Eaton anyway, and Bobby Eaton's like, no, and still goes. So he sells that right. Then Tommy gets up to the top rope. Stan Lane's right there. Instead of kicking Stan Lane, he lets the referee escort Stan Lane to his corner, and then Bobby throws Stan or Tommy on top of Bobby Eaton, and then goes over and stops Eaton from making the save, and they win. They roll out of the ring and powder like you're supposed to do. I think that's no, because Jim Cornette wasn't in gear in that match, but they did the spot with the all the stuff, the tennis rackets, the so that wasn't for the U.S. title. Where's the next chain match? Was that?
No, because again the one for the U.S. tag team titles was from Great American Bash '88. I just want to keep
but there's a chain spot where.
That was the Oklahoma City match. That was the Oklahoma City match.
There's a second chain spot where Eaton gets it. So
that's the Great American Bash one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But this one was the rocket launcher finish because I love that one because, like you said, the selling was beautiful. Bobby Eaton can't do anything in midair. He's got to take the punishment. He's got to take I
feel like the rocket launcher was also the Fantastics finisher. That's why they did the post interview. They said we beat them with their own move, and I'm like. I feel like that was their move. Now I don't remember what the Fantastics finisher was.
Again, Bobby, I know TW is going to share this, but you took from people. You took from the Fabulous Ones with the gear, and you took moves from the Midnight Express. It's okay. It's okay.
Hey, man, me and Rico took the Vegematic from the Midnight Express.
There you go. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And with that being said, TW, let's go to the match, the chain finish match with a different variation from July 10th, 1988. This was on pay-per-view from Baltimore, Maryland. It was the Midnight Express trying to regain those U.S. tag team titles. And let me just say this because, again, I love the U.S. tag team titles. I love what it stood for.
I can't believe I don't have those belts. They're going to happen. Well, one belt. I don't need two.
No, I love what it stood for. And again, it gave tag teams something to fight for. There's nothing wrong with that. But it was almost a pigeonhole championship because you could not picture that belt on no other team but the Midnight Express. It belonged to them. It was their world tag team titles. And again, professional jealousy, Reflectionites, they wanted to be the world tag team champions. They wanted to have that torch-bearing shit. They deserve
obviously
that.
The Fantastics have them because they have them in this match, but didn't Freebirds have them too? Garvin,
they had it too. But at the purity, when the U.S. tag team titles meant something, it belonged to the Midnight Express, no matter what. It was theirs. If they were fighting for it or they were defending it, it was like a Midnight Express match was always 9 out of 10 times it was for the U.S. tag team titles. It was from Baltimore, Maryland, TW. Great American Bash '88. This was their venture into pay-per-view, and they was trying to compete with the WWE and all that stuff. But one thing we have to make clear here: Baltimore, Maryland loved the Midnight Express, and they did not like the Fantastics. TW. We have to be honest with ourselves, and of course, Jim Cornette was high above the arena in a cage because they wanted no outside and in a straitjacket. And if the Midnight Express lose this match, then Jim Cornette was supposed to get 10 lashes from the Fantastics. So TW, with all that ambiance and then the chain finish, what say you about this particular match from Great American Bash 1988?
So this match, everybody gets what they want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Midnights get their belts back, but the fans came there to see Cornette embarrassed in the cage. They got it. In the straitjacket, they got it. And they were upset because they didn't get to see the 10 lashes. Except, hold up, he still got them. And that means Stan and Bobby left them. Fantastics chased them in there, got them, lashed them a couple times. Remember the match we did with the baby bottle?
Yeah.
This is how that match should have ended. That the babyface lost, but he then should have taken that baby bottle. I don't even remember who it is now. Who the heck was that?
That was the Smoky Mountain thing.
Oh,
Chris. That was the Chris
Candido, and who was it?
Brian Lee.
Brian Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute, no.
It was either Brian Lee or Tracy Smothers.
It was Tracy. It was Tim Horner.
Oh, who cares?
It was Tim Horner, and they made him drink the damn baby bottle after he lost. It should have been Tim Horner making Candido drink it, and that's what this is. The Fantastics send the fans home happy. They're upset that they lost their belts. Well, not really, because you said the Baltimore fans hated them, but they still lashed Jim Cornette, and there we go.
Well, remember, like I keep saying to you, TW, I said in the late 80s, something happened where the heels just kept getting cheered, especially in the East Coast and all that stuff.
It's
Baltimore did it.
Towns.
The what?
The crime towns, the blue liberal cities where people love criminals. That's why they cheer it back.
Jesus Christ. That I popped on that one. I have no comeback from that shit. Like, crying down. Wait a minute. I gotta check if Baltimore had a Republican mayor. Wait, we gotta see about this.
The Wire is based in Baltimore, Maryland.
There was a Republican mayor, but anyway, need to hear that. But like I said, let me ask you this because let me ask you this again. I can nitpick all I want, but again, because of Jim Cornette being in that cage and being in the straitjacket, did he, let's say, overshadow this match, or it was just part of the package?
Nope, because he's up in the cage. He's out of sight, out of mind. I would gather most people forgot he was up there unless they're right underneath him, laughing at him, because these guys deliver in the ring. You can't distract from a match if all four guys are in there working together. I talk about my match I had with Manny Fernandez and Bo James, and when they're no-selling my stuff and Bobby Blaze is at the merch booth where he shouldn't be while the match is going on, and he's making comments. The crowd's not going to pay attention to the match. They're going to pay attention to Manny on the outside of the ring, Bobby Blaze over by the table. But here, Jim Cornette just sat up there like a good soldier pouting, so it gives him a visual to whatever. And then the four guys went out there and had a good match that kept the attention of the audience because they were there to put on a good match, and that's what they did.
And before we go to the last match, CW, again, I have to acknowledge the pop for the Midnight Express winning. Not liberal tears or liberal crybabies, but they pop for the Midnight Express because, by this time in '88, with the advent of cable TV, and you and I kind of followed the Midnight Express and the Fantastics from UWF, World Class, and all that stuff. And again, the aftermags. Again, you got to love the Midnight Express. And like you said, they matched, Stan Lane with the short shorts, but it matched with Bobby Heenan's colors with the long things, so with the long pants and all that stuff. So it works. It works visually. It works, chemistry wise and all that stuff. So TW, any last thoughts, and then we'll move on to the last match.
So I mean, again, this is no offense to Dennis Condrey, but Stan Lane did all the talking. Jim Cornette did it for every other version of the Midnight Express or Paul Lee. Stan Lane called himself the gangster of love, the whatever. He did all that stuff. That guy is what made people. And Bobby Eaton is he's solid, man. There's no one that's going to say anything bad about Bobby Eaton's ring work. No one. But he's not the best talker, right? But so the missing ingredient that they didn't have with Dennis and Bobby was a guy with the charisma. And Stan Lane has it. And I forget who the wrestler was, but he used to say, every girl wants to be with me and every guy wants to be me. that's the kind of aura Stan Lane gave off. And so people just like, we love this guy. It's like, it's why I love Rick Rude. It's why I love Diamond Stud. When I'm still embarrassed that I didn't know Scott Hall immediately. But
and logistically, TW, Stan Lane was the gangster of love, and Bobby Eaton was the Sultan of Swing because Stan Lane gave him that kind of moniker too.
But he did that kind of stuff, and clearly making him the Shawn Michaels of the Midnight Express, because Shawn Michaels gave people nicknames like that. What do you call it? Big Daddy Cool, and I forget what he called Razor. But that's what I'm saying. Once you add the charisma to the already awesome Bobby Eaton and Jim Cornette team, it's over, man. And you know, it's funny because I'm starting to feel like there's similarities between the Midnight Express and the Dynamic Dudes episode we did, where they turned on the Dynamic Dudes, although they just never liked them, right? They just turned on them, and that must have been right after this, because this is probably what gave them the idea to make the Midnight Express baby faces for that year before they turned on the Dynamic Dudes and became heels again.
Mm-hmm. So with that being said, Reflectionites, we'll go to the last match. This was the wild card on this. This technically does not really count for the Midnight Express Fantastics feud, but there's a caveat, TW, because again, Jim Cornette's involved because he wanted to be backup for the Fantastics to make sure Paulie Dangerously's original Midnight Express wouldn't cheat to win. So we got Paulie Dangerously managing the original Midnight Express with Loverboy Dennis and Ravishing Randy Rose against the Fantastics, who are being seconded. But, you know, again, this was one night only by Jim Cornette. But Jim Cornette promised the Fantastics was, I'm going to watch your back to make sure Paulie was not going to interfere in that match. Fantastics win. So I'll say this. Paulie listened to you, technically, because he wanted to make sure that his original Midnight Express was not going to be the Midnight Express from the WCCW days or the Mid-South days. He made sure that Ravishing Randy and Loverboy Dennis at least was color coordinated to a degree. Might not be to what your liking was, but they were at least matching. So, TW, what say you about this last match, the wild card?
The shocking thing of all is Cornette stuck to it. He didn't turn on the Fantastics. He hit Dennis Condrey with a trip, and I think he hit Loverboy, well, not Loverboy, the other one, Ravishing Randy, with the tennis racket, and then got his ass beat by all three of them, and then the Fantastics and the Midnight Express made the save and didn't fight each other with that. It was insane. It was like, wow, like this is that's why I think this has to be the precursor to them becoming baby faces for that year before becoming heels again with the Dynamic Dudes, because this has to be late 88, 89.
This was January 89. They were already becoming the baby faces.
Right. And then by 90, they turned on the Dynamic Dudes.
But we know, again, logistically, because we did a previous episode, we learned that the Fantastics were not long-term kind of like American signees, if you will, Reflectionites, because they made a lot of money in All Japan or New Japan Pro Wrestling. So you couldn't get that commitment. But like you said, TW, visually, when you see the Fantastics and the Midnight Express, who've had... This is 89, TW. They've had a war for 5 years since 84 to be in the ring together, and technically you could not really either capitalize or give a payoff. So I guess, to me, I feel a little bit cheated. Does that validate, or do you have a different take on that? I just, visually, it's kind of funny.
I think the payoff was Cornette got revenge on Dangerously.
No, I understand. No, we know that the overlaying story is the Midnight Express versus the original Midnight Express, which culminated as Shine Time Rumble. But for us, I'm talking about this rivalry of the Fantastics against Jim Cornette's Midnight Express, seeing all four of them together, at least in the ring, looking at each other and not beating the shit out of each other. We never had that kind of, to me, closure. Visually, that's closure. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Let's say.
Well, I'm assuming that the Fantastics weren't there much longer after that, although I think it was 90 when they had that match with Eddie Gilbert and Ron.
No, that was 88.
It was 88. Okay, yeah. That was when I first got cable. Yeah,
that was a couple of weeks ago.
So they must not have been there much longer, and for that being the case, now the Midnight Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton are sliding into that babyface team role, and Cornette being a man of his word and helping the Fantastics the way he said he would. If he doesn't and he turns on them and you start off something new with the Fantastics and Eaton and Lane and they leave, then you don't get a payoff. So when they do that, now they slide in, and now they're definitely the baby faces versus the other Oriental Express, the other Midnight Express. And I like what Paulie Dangerously, when he introduced him, he goes, the team's so bad, we had to get 2 new guys. And I was like, I don't know if that's an insult or a compliment. Like, you know, like, because he wasn't saying he was with all 4 of them. He was saying these 2 are better than those 2. And it set it up. It set the table for the original versus the current.
Right. And of course, TW, we have to at least close on this note. Again, in the 2000s and maybe the 2010s, with those nostalgia tours and the independent circuits, they did the Fantastics versus the Midnight Express, either with Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton or Loverboy and Bobby Eaton when they did the kind of like those conventions or whatever. So they did those stuff. So, you know, again, the rivalry continued in the 2000s Reflectionites, but for nostalgia purposes, for the, you know, collector, versions and all that stuff. So, TW, in closing, is there anything else you want to say to give flowers to Bobby Fulton again?
Yes.
Mr. Dad Bod extraordinaire.
Yes. I'm surrounded in this room. The only Bobby Fulton figure I could find was one of these. I thought Jax made Fantastics, but I can't remember, and I don't have Jax. That's all I'm gonna tell. We got to get at least, if not Cardona and Myers, if not Mattel, if not AEW, because they like to make figures of people that never even smelled AEW, like Owen Hart. If we got to get Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers action figures, and we got to get Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane. I know they made Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane for Jax. I don't like Jax figures. They're not as good as Mattel. We got to get Midnight Express. We got to get Fantastics action figures. They deserve them. They deserve them. And it's a steady stream of income for them. We got to get the Rock and Roll Express some too. They're out there still wrestling, damn it. We got to get them action figures so they can start getting some of them checks.
You know, Pro Wrestling T should actually go into the action figure business for that. Like what you're saying.
Ringside exclusives, I'll show you them. Ringside exclusive, they got this new thing called Unsanctioned. And now that I think about it, maybe I should be talking to them about it. But there you go. They made these. They're not made by AEW or WWE, but they look just like their figures. They would be the perfect one. So do you see the Outsiders right there? Mm-hmm. And there's the Steiners there. And over here's the Usos. And then I got the Dudley Boys coming. They do that for Ringside where they make exclusive versions of these Ultimate Edition figures. They're all tag teams. So we got to get Ringside exclusive on it. We got to get Fantastics. We got to get Midnight Express. And we got to get Rock and Roll Express.
And we got to get the original Midnight Express too. So
and they're finally making another Terry Taylor figure. So, and Tito. They're making a Matador figure. I want a regular Tito figure, but they're making a Matador.
Do what's right, Ringside exclusive. So with that being said, we close on this Rivalries edition here at the PWR podcast at the Hami Media Group at podbeam.com. What are we going to do next time, Reflectionites? Well, you know what? We're going to do a different spotlight, TW. We're going to do a greatest heel turns. And we're going to do a heel turn that everybody saw coming, but it took 9 months in the making, TW. We're going to do Bully Ray betraying Hulk Hogan and his daughter Brooke Hogan as he is found out as the leader and the president of Aces and Eights. This is from TNA 2013 TW. So I'm going to give you the links and we're going to talk about, I guess we could say, one of the greatest heel turns of the 2010s era. So TW, with that being said, give out those socials so we can get out of here.
Alrighty, you can follow us with the Pro Wrestling Coalition Network at PWC Network at podbean.com. You can follow us also with Hami Media Group at podbean.com. The HMG is also at channelattitude.com. Our X is at PW Reflection. I talked about Travis. He's at Nuts and Bolts PW on Instagram. Big Ray is all over social media and Grindr at Big Ray Hernandez. His wife bought him an awesome Hulk Hogan shirt last week. I know you saw that. And every Wednesday, he's live with the Next Level podcast on YouTube. And I believe every Tuesday, he does a Raw recap, right? Is that the new one? Mm-hmm. And then you can find me on X and Instagram at TommyWonder19. My Snapchat is #Wonder. Facebook.com is /TommyWonder. My other X and my TikTok are at @TheTommyWonder. And you can find Big Vito and Noel at Big Vito Brand on TikTok. You don't stop.
And I will upload this on my YouTube channel, Reflectionites. That's PWSOPRF. That's PWSOPROF. And you can follow me on the Twitter at PWSOPRF, PWSOPROF. And maybe A-Track Brown, that slow-ass motherfucker, will upload it on the PWSO YouTube Network's channel. Follow my brothers in arms, A-Track Brown, the dirtiest of the city, the king of the reactions at the number 8, TRAC Brown, and of course, Billy Ray Valentine, who is on a harangue politically right now. Follow him at Obi-Wan, you know me. And again, next week we will do a greatest heel turn spotlight. Bully Ray becoming the president of the Aces and Eights from TNA Wrestling from 2013. So with that being said, I'm the professor. That's Mr. Wonderful, WWE Zone, the Iron Stomach One, Dr. Freaking Stein, and the undisputed, undeniable Detroit Rock City Universal Heavyweight Champion of the world. Tommy Wonder saying good night. We'll see you next time here at the PWR podcast at the Hami Me Group at podbean.com.
Every girl crazy about a sharp-dressed man.
Oh, well, you need a longer beard for that shit. And
one of them dudes is dead too. I'm not trying to replace him. Dude, those guys.
Oh.
It's funny. Those guys.